If you, especially visitors may want to know that Nepal has the highest concentration of aircraft within a developing country, perhaps in the world. Meaning there are the northeast of India, in Uttarakhand. You do not find it. So this is an incongruity. Why? Because of the issues of road infrastructure. The other incongruity is we suddenly are at a point of explosion of road infrastructure, but the quality of the road infrastructure is in question. District roads are mostly designed by the bulldozer or a backhoe operator rather than engineered. But there are some good roads coming up as we speak. So this is the situation we have right now, and I'll end by referring specifically to Kathmandu Valley. Kathmandu Valley is the largest urban concentration in the entire 2,500 kilometers of the Himalaya. The population now is 4 million, and before we know it, it could be 6 million. The scale of human distress in terms of public transport is extremely high. So there is clearly a need, as I see it, for investment everywhere, for easing the pain of the public, number one, for improving the economy, improving its efficiencies, and the last point about the transformative moment we are in, the links to the north, which are now being added to the links to the south, and everything is being given more girth. How to do it in a way that the economy prospers, the environment is protected, as well as the fact that heritage, because Nepal is a country of heritage, how do you protect all while moving ahead with road infrastructure? This is what we will be discussing, I hope, in context of presentations being made. Now, without further ado, may I ask Mr. Bandyopadhyay to make his presentation.
Very good morning, Kanakji, Honorable Minister in Chair, Mr. Sigdel, my fellow panelists, and ladies and gentlemen in the audience. It's indeed my privilege to be with you.
There are
linked to this system, both on National Waterway 1 Gandaki, which is of course known in India as Gandak, and Koshi. And in both these rivers, India is also having a plan for improving the navigability. So that's a great boon for Nepal, I would say. But it doesn't stop there. There are many other opportunities for now Nepal to link to the regional and global supply chain through this river to India and Bangladesh, but also to the ports. Ports of Kolkata, which this river system connects, Chittagong, in Bangladesh also this river system actually connects, and then through coastal shipping to other ports. As you know, coastal shipping also is the new thing which is getting a lot of boost between India and Bangladesh. We, along with IFC, has actually worked on developing a new supply chain, which will be afoot by 2021. This is to help Nepal import all its containers from Kolkata port through a multimodal journey, starting from Kolkata, precisely the Gardnery jetty in Kolkata, to a new river port which is being constructed opposite Patna on National Waterway 1, and from there transferring to a truck to come to Birganj. Similarly, there are two other projects which are being discussed actively with Nepal for the benefit of this audience. As two new river port terminals are coming up on National Waterway 1, which are close to the Nepalese border. One is Sahibganj multimodal terminal, which will be completed in May, will have the capacity to handle both bulk and containers, and will be within 120 kilometers from actually Biratnagar ICD. And similarly, there is a third terminal, Ghazipur, which is between Varanasi and Sahibganj, which will be also developed in a couple of years, which is close to Nepalese border. Let me also talk a little bit, because this is a summit on investment summit. So what are the opportunities for private sector participation or maximizing finance for development? If you look narrowly again into the waterway sector, there has not been many private sector development for waterway as such development, fairway development or dredging, except a few in Latin America and recently in Ukraine. There has been some experiments in Europe in 1800s. But the private sector opportunity lies actually in ancillary facilities, in those terminal development, in developing those logistic clusters. And I believe that is the future of South Asia, that is the future of Nepal, where even if the river terminals which are being constructed, the private sector can come in as a concessionaire for $20 or $30 years, can bring in equipment and can also foster the whole logistic development around those terminals, including constructing warehouses and many other, goods, the export and import goods processing zones.
You have 2 minutes left, Mr. Bandyopadhyay. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, I'll just finish. So I think here lies the opportunity for private sector to come in. The opportunity for private sector also to come in is linking this various infrastructure, because the vision has to be, as I was mentioning, multimodal in nature. And that could be any mode: road with rail, rail with water, even with air, it's great to see that you are actually developing a new international airport in Viratnagar, which may also have some freight potential in future. And I think that is the way to go. In Nepal, to bring in private sector for developing those ancillary infrastructure, those connectivity structures, those logistic nodes, and not just looking exclusively on the transport infrastructure like roads and rail and waterways as such. I'll stop at that, sir. Thank you.
That's very good, and we can come to a discussion if there are more queries from the audience. The reference to waterways, that your focus on waterways, I think is appropriate. Because in Nepal, the debate on waterways, or the focus on waterways, has actually begun from the political leadership, and the rest of civil society, academia is actually rushing to understand this arena. So your presentation is very useful in that context as well, Mr. Bandyopadhyay. Now from waterways, let's go to railways. I ask Mr. Wang Liji to make your presentation, please. Yes.
Morning, Namaste in Nepal, Namaste. Now, Honorable Minister and the Honorable Mr. Dikchi, thank you very much for your invitation for the Nepal Investment Summit. And I wish it's a successful summit. And at first, the Honorable Minister, I have a proposal. Now the summit is 2 years once. So I suppose we can take it 1 year, each year one. And also I propose the summit can not only in Nepal, also to other countries, also shift to the other countries. This is my first proposal for the summit. And within several minutes, in a short time, I'd have a very short introduction of the company, and we are looking for opportunities of investment here and what I'm thinking. Okay, thank you. So I'm from China Railway Group Limited, CREC. China Railway Group Limited is the second largest company globally, and it owns 300,000 employees, and the turnover is more than 100 billion US dollar. And in China, 70% of the railways built by our company, and also 60% of the metro lines, the urban metro lines built by our company. In the past years, already we completed totally the bridges 19,000 kilometers, and the tunnels 17,000 kilometers, and highways 16,000 kilometers. Globally, now we are in the list ranked 56th in Fortune 500, and CREC was ranked second in ENR's 2018 top 250 global contractors. And for the famous railway construction like Sinolao from China to Laos to Asia, and also another line is in Indonesia, the Jakarta to Bandung project, and both of these two projects are funded by our company and constructed as the leader contractor of our company. And now also we are pursuing the connection lines from China to Myanmar, China to Nepal, China to Kyrgyzstan, and China to Kazakhstan. This is one belt, the belt and the road construction. We are doing this. In Nepal, CREC also is a famous company. We are doing the Baribabi tunnel project in northern Nepal. And this project is constructed very smoothly, and it will be complete next week. That project is before the progress, 8 months before the progress, and with high quality. Now we are pursuing several opportunities for the investment in Nepal. For example, we have the capability of and the light railway and the BRT also. Now we are studying the opportunities. And also we have the capabilities for the tunnel construction. We will do more hydro stations also. And also we have the capabilities for the PPP road, the toll road. And now we are talking with the government departments. So hope Nepal will be, in the very short future, will be more progress, and hope more companies come to Nepal to do the investment here. So I agreed with the name is Prosperous Nepal, Happy Nepali. And also in China we have a proverb: if you want to be rich, first you should build the road. It's I hope successful Nepal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wang, for also remaining within time. I will throw out a question for the discussion period. If anybody to take this up. You see, Nepal now is also opened up to the north. The infrastructure is still being built, but in relation to railways, Mr. Wang, the China, the Qinghai Railway, Qinghai Tibet Railway arrived in Lhasa in 2002 and in Shigatse in 2006. Firstly, let me mention to you that Shigatse as a name is a Nepali name from the Newari language, which means 10 houses. So Shigatse, Nepal also has close affiliation to Shigatse for the very name, because of the Nepali traders that used to set up shop in Shigatse.
Yeah.
But the question I have is, how much advantage will Nepal have for the carriage of rail goods by rail, up to the border point, even if we don't speak about railway into Nepal, but
Yeah.
even to the border point, how much advantage will that be vis-a-vis bringing goods by the ocean to Calcutta or Visakhapatnam or Mongla or Chittagong? This is the question that I won't ask you to answer right now, but we could discuss this, because so much of Nepal's economy in the future depends on the viability of rail transport through Tibet. Is it viable, or it is mainly a strategic railroad? This is the question. Would you like to answer this now, or shall we pick it up later?
Okay, thank you.
Later.
Thank you, Niyati.
Later then.
About the railway links between China and Nepal, this is a good dream. Good dream for Nepal, also good dream for Chinese. Because in the many years ago, our former chairman Mao, and he said this is a dream to link the railway to Nepal. But now the dream is coming, and not only linked to Kathmandu, also will link to, we hope it linked to Pokhara, linked to Lumbini, and also linked to India, because the belt and the road and belt and the road proposal is openly to all the organizations, or openly to all the countries, not only China and Nepal, also India, also the World Bank, also ADB, like this. And for this railway from Mr. Dixie said already the railway already connected to Lhasa and Rikaze. But from Rikaze to Kathmandu, now we are doing the feasibility study. Okay. So we hope it can be done by both the Nepal government and the Chinese government. With their help, the work can be done very soon.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I was also trying to use up your 7 minutes. Thank you very much for this very important contribution. I guess my question also has to do with the per tonnage transportation costs of goods vis-a-vis by ocean and then overland to Kathmandu from the south, vis-a-vis from the Chinese mainland to the Nepali port of call. On the northern side of our border. We'll come to that later if anybody is interested on this subject. May I now go to Mr. He Zhenwei? Secretary General of the China Overseas Development Association, CODA. Sir.
尊敬的尼泊尔基础设施和交通部的部长阁下，尊敬的主持人，各位来宾，女士们、先生们，大家上午好。
Dear Your Excellency, Mr. Minister, and dear all the guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning.
首先我必须跟主持人也提个小小的要求，因为刚才主持人谈到了每个人只能讲7分钟，但是很遗憾，我不能像我们中铁王总那样讲一口流利的英语，尽管我的俄语很不错，所以说我必须由我的助理来担任翻译，所以我申请我的这个讲话能够给14分钟。
Well, first of all, I would like to have a request that, as the moderator said, each speaker will have 7 minutes time to give a speech, and because I don't speak English, unfortunately, so I have to be interpreted by my assistant. So may I have more time, like double?
这次来尼
I
泊
would
尔
give you 10 minutes maximum, sir. Thank you.
10分钟，10分钟。
，OK，
Thank you very much.
这次来尼泊尔呢是我第一次来尼泊尔访问，这个也是受我们中国国家发展改革委员会的委托，特别来参加这次投资峰会。
This is my first time to come to visit Nepal. And we were designated by our National Development and Reform Commission to organize a delegation of Chinese companies to participate this summit.
所以我们中国产业还有发展协会特意邀请中国的一些企业对尼泊尔投资感兴趣的企业，特别是我们的一些央企，像包括中国中铁，也包括三峡集团，也包括中铁建，也包括这个我们的葛洲坝集团，还有我们的一些地方的民营企业。 他们都对尼泊尔投资很感兴趣，这次来参加这个峰会。
So we organized the delegation, including some state-owned companies of China, such as CREC, CRCC, and China Gezhou Ba Group, as also some famous private companies. We organized a delegation come.
那么昨天上午我们参加了整个全体的大会，给我最深的一个感受，也是让我感到很惊讶的是，我们这次投资峰会吸引了这么多的来自于全球各地的参会代表，以至于我们的会场很多人都在站着，这种情况非常的好。其实我们也经常办过很多的活动，如果我们的投资峰会每次都能够吸引这么多人来参与的话，这本身就证明我们尼泊尔是充满着投资机遇、投资机会的。
Yesterday morning, we attended the opening and plenary we were so surprised that there were so many delegates from all over the world come to attend the summit. So we can see that there's a lot of investment opportunities and potentials for those investors.
昨天利用一些这个时间，我们还是到尼泊尔、到加德满都城市转了一下，感觉到基础设施的确是非常的薄弱。但是从另一方面来说的话，基础设施薄弱，证明它的投资的机会也是蛮大的。
Yesterday at noon, actually we get out for a little tour about Kathmandu, and we felt that Kathmandu has a really poor infrastructure at this moment. So we can see that there's a large space to improve.
那么在中国，大家知道，我们习近平主席提出来“一带一路”的倡议，现在已经是第6年头了。那么在“一带一路”的倡议里边，其中有我们提出来5通，这里边包括政策的沟通，也包括基础设施的联通，还有包括我们的货币的融通，也包括我们金融的融通，还有货币的贸易的畅通，还有民心的沟通。在这里面，其实基础设施的这个联通是非常重要的。
I think everybody know that in China we have the Belt and Road Initiative. And our president, Mr. Xi, proposed that including 5 aspects of that are the communication and the connectivity of policy and policy, infrastructure, finance, people. And trade.
那么大家知道中国改革开放40年，去年是40年。那么在中国，其实我们今天来看到中国的高速公路四通八达，但是我们知道，在40年前，中国面临的情况和尼泊尔今天没有什么太大的区别。
We also know that China has experienced 40 years opening up and reform. Actually, before the 14 years ago, we were the same with Nepal right now.
记得当时我们改革开放初期的时候，中国人提出了一句话，叫“要致富，先修路”。
I still remember at the very beginning of our opening up and reform, all the Chinese people said that if you want to get rich, you should build the road first.
所以政府当时制定了很多的优惠的政策，我们当时主要吸引来自于亚洲开发银行、来自于世界银行的这个国外政府贷款的投资。
So at that time, our government released a lot of incentives and preferential policies to invest the foreign capitals and foreign investment, such as from the Asian Bank and the World Bank.
但我们采取了非常有用的一个政策，就是我们要采取收费，这个一定要允许这个建这个高速公路啊，一定要去收费，然后我们通过收费来偿还我们的贷款。
And there's a very practical one of the policy, that is we use the charge the road. We charge for the people who pass the high speed road, and we repay the debt by it. Yeah.
所以说，如果当时中国政府也很穷，也没有钱，如果完全只让政府来投资的话，这个基本上是没有可能的。通过这样的一种可以去收费，通过去凡是让使用者来先进行一个投入，然后开始通过收费偿还贷款，这种方式是非常可行的。今天的中国的高速公路的确发展起来。
So at that time, the Chinese government were also quite poor and has no money to invest in the infrastructure. So taking use of the charged road is a good way to make it practical and implement it well.
那么很显然一点，马上最后
We have 2 minutes with
好，
apologies.
最后，那么很显然一点的话，我们这个基础设施，我想在这边说一个观点，就是说它不仅仅是为了修一条高速公路，也不仅仅是为了建设一个机场，而重要的是通过这样的基础设施建设，带动了工业化的一个发展。这样，比如说在尼泊尔，我们建一个机场，还是建一个高速公路，你可以带动整个建筑材料的这个工业的发展。这样的话，对尼泊尔的工业体系建设是非常重要的。
I want to emphasize one point, that is, it's not only to build a road or build an airport. Actually, it can also bring and improve the industrialization of Nepal. For example, it can also give good opportunities for the construction materials sector.
所以最后我就想说一句话，我们要充满信心。只要我们政府制定非常良好的政策，只要我们得到我们整个中国这个外国投资者的一个支持的话，我们尼泊尔的这个基础设施建设的话，应该是大有希望的。
So,
谢谢。
at last, I want to say that we must confident with our infrastructure, as long as the government could release some good incentives and policies, and we can attract investors and foreign investors. We will improve our infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. He. Now we will move on from institutions to the private sector, because if we are talking about investments in infrastructure, particularly road infrastructure. In this context, then we will obviously have to listen to what the private sector has to say. And I think in our panel here, the person who could be called absolutely private sector is Mr. Salah Sharaf. So may I give you the mic, sir?
Honorable Minister, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a pleasure to be here at the Investment Summit in Nepal, and to see the international community participating, which shows the confidence in the investment in Nepal. I'm going to go into the basics of logistics, as a lot of people might not understand what is logistics and what is the infrastructure. So I'm not going to talk about advanced logistics, but it's going to be simple and easy. So I need to grab the attention of the people, and this is short time of period to understand what actually logistics is. And what can be achieved. So everyone knows the phrase time is money, and in logistics this is the most important two words, time and money. Because if we look at the logistics, the efficiencies are always done in the time. That's the first point. And the second efficiency is done in the money. So since if we go back to the beginning of the civilization, when human civilization started, you know, if everyone can close his eyes for a moment and imagine there is 2 points, point A and point B. In a straight line, and between these points are the movement, whether it's humans, whether it's cargo, whether it's passengers. It goes straight, smooth, simple and easy. So hundreds of years ago, trade was moving easy between city pairs, between countries, and then later on in the new era which we are in today, the movement has been faster, but the regulations have been bigger between the cities or between the countries. So the dots have become circles and the line has become shorter. So we have achieved the movement by shortening the time, but when we come to the cities, this is where we face these challenges today. Let me also say that the infrastructure, as we have heard also earlier today, the infrastructure is the main pillar and the backbone for any economy. If there is no infrastructure, whether it is air infrastructure, whether it is sea infrastructure, whether it is road infrastructure, whether it is rail infrastructure, if infrastructure does not exist, economies will not exist. Then we have the rules and the regulations. Let me state the rules and the regulations. I come from Dubai, and the Prime Minister, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, recently he mentioned his 10 commandments of governance. I'm just going to mention 2 of these commandments. And this is, I quote, his first commandment, which says, the purpose of government is to serve the people. And the purpose of a government job is to serve the community. And the purpose of laws and regulations is to serve the humans. And his last commandment, or last point, the 10th point, he says, we are lucky because we work in governments. And our job is the best thing in life. With it, we change lives of millions for better. So let me ask a question. Here, why has Dubai become successful, and how it has changed the lives of millions of people who are living there? And this attribute goes to the father of our current Prime Minister, Sheikh Mohammed, the late Sheikh Rashid bin Rashid, that the 2 important places were built, and the investment was built in these infrastructure. The first was the airport, and the second is the port. He removed all the rules, removed all the regulations, and made it easy and welcomed everyone to come. And after 50 years from 1960, today we see what the success is there. So Dubai has grown today because of the ease of doing business. So in logistics, it's always proud that we have committed to invest in Nepal, and we have seen the positive response from the various government authorities. And we believe that Nepal, the opportunities in the infrastructure will grow, and we'll see that country will be growing. As we heard here today earlier, it's not a landlocked country, it's a land-linked country, and it can become, whether it can become the Singapore of the region, it can become the Switzerland of the region. Nepal can become that, economy which will be the center focus point. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pala. The touchstone, as you mentioned, is ease of doing business, besides infrastructure, of course. And in this full spectrum spectrum of ease of doing business is linked through many, many parts of the spectrum to the first point, which is political stability. And all Nepalis who hope for incredible growth, that our geography and our climate, our placement, our location, our people, all of that comes together. The one thing that seems to be missing to move towards the touchstone of ease of doing business is political stability. So that's the hope. And not just political stability, but political stability in the case of Nepal in a democratic setup. So this is where I think Nepal is trying very hard to move towards, which is also the reason for this summit here. May I now move then to Mr. Andreas Kramer, who is with an arm of the KfW, an agency that Nepalis know well, arm known as the DEG. You have 7 minutes, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much. The Honorable Minister, Secretary, Mr. Dixit, value panelists, it's an honor for me to speak here today. I arrived in Nepal yesterday, and I had the opportunity to talk to many entrepreneurs, people from banks, government officials, and my reflection of the last day and a half is there's quite a vibe going on in Nepal these days. It's impressive. It's really, really nice. And I want to touch on a few things that the panelists already mentioned that I also think are important one way or the other. So to support my colleague from the private business, as you rightly mentioned, DEG is the private sector part of the KfW Banking Group. KfW Banking Group, together with other organizations of Germany, are well known in Nepal. Providing relief after the earthquake, or also spending money in the public sector in Nepal. But right now, and that's the reason why also DEG is sending a representative to this summit, is how to unlock private capital, how to really make it real that there is this consensus of the government to unlock foreign direct investment into this country. Because what was rightly said by the panel, yes, there is money coming in, and necessarily money from ADB and the World Bank to do a lot of necessary things here, but to really lift Nepal and the infrastructure investments that are necessary to the next level, the only way to really do that is to set up ease of business, a framework where foreign investors have the confidence to come into this country and to invest with their private capital into good projects. And that is what DG can facilitate. I am responsible for infrastructure, energy for the regions Europe, Asia, Middle East. Across all different sectors of infrastructure. So I have a very good picture, understanding of different setups, different frameworks across different countries in this region. And there are good examples where Nepal can also look at and say, why did countries succeed in doing the way of business they are doing, same as in the Middle East. So Nepal does not have to invent the wheel again. A lot of people already did that for you. So look across the borders and look what is necessary to really facilitate bringing private capital into this country. And DG is active in financing one of the hydro projects already with private capital. We're providing a senior loan to Lower Sulu, which will hopefully be COD by the end of this year, maybe beginning of next year. Similar, we're looking at another hydro opportunity, also providing financing. So the point is, it is really possible to access private capital. DG really wants to play a role there, and not only in the infrastructure place, but one other very important thing is, hopefully there will not be a credit crunch in Nepal. So DG is also, and other DFIs and IFIs are in the position to provide also financing to the banking sector. So that also goes hand in hand. It is very important in order to lift Nepal to the next level is to facilitate foreign direct investments. The question I have, the wish I would ask the government is really set up a framework where people would have the money to invest and also to mobilize more private business, that they feel comfortable in certain challenges. So one challenge, of course, is foreign exchange rate. But again, there are possibilities to overcome those challenges. So in terms of traffic, one risk that lenders usually don't like to take is traffic risk. So let's work on a framework where there are capacity-based schemes that help private investors to overcome this. Let's try to shift risks where they belong. Some shifts have to be borne by equity and sponsors. Some shifts can be taken by senior lenders. And for some things, government has to step in and to provide the right framework. So everybody has to work hand in hand. And again, coming back to my opening remarks, I really believe that Nepal is on the brink of going somewhere. Over the last 2 years, a lot of things for the better in Nepal have changed, and let's all work together on this and continue on those paths. And DG KfW Banking Group is very much committed to provide financing to Nepal. That is the reason why we're here. I'm happy to talk to anybody of you looking for good projects that we can provide private funding to. So thank you for having me.
That is music to the ears indeed, and I do hope that people take up this offer, not only from Mr. Kramer, but others in this panel, to discuss investment opportunities in infrastructure which is of course the primary requirement, but beyond that, ease of doing business, political stability, all come into play. Before I open the floor, let me bring before you one term that has not been used that much in this summit thus far. It's the term remittance. Nepal for now is in my view, as a journalist, a remittance economy. We would like to convert into essentially a economy that actually raises employment levels to such a degree that we do not need Nepalis to go by the millions to Malaysia, to India, to the Gulf, to send back money to keep our economy afloat. This is if I might use the term, the embarrassment and the shame of Nepal, that we have a country with such possibilities, but we have not been able to organize our society enough so that something that has been a historic fact, that Nepalis leave their hills and plains, their homesteads, to go work elsewhere, and the economic pain and the cultural pain and the personal cost of that is something that we also need to keep in mind when we think of investment. That what do we do? Investment, economic growth, equity, leading towards the fact that Nepalis don't have to leave their home and hearth when the country itself is so full of potential, which essentially then is the topic of our summit yesterday and today. We have about 10 minutes, unfortunately. Might I suggest that till now we've talked about the possibilities. There are enough individuals in the audience who could tell us about the challenges in converting those possibilities into reality. So I'll ask if there are any questions or comments, very, very brief because time is short, but to focus on this aspect, the challenges of converting the possibility of investment into reality in this country known as Nepal. Floor is open. Yes, over in the front. Mike, sir. Please introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Devesh Kumar. I'm representing a company in Myanmar as Chief Operating Officer. My question to the panel is that what is the limit of equity participation in various sectors?
In Nepal?
Yes.
I think
and one more question, that what is the ease of entry and exit?
Ease of entry and exit. Yeah. I think that would be best addressed to the gentleman from Nepal. Gopa Sigdel jile response garna milcha. Because the other panelists are from elsewhere. The question was, what is the equity kati halna milli nominally? Ek, orko chaini ease of taking out profits. Am I right?
Like to exit.
Yeah. Also to exit, to close up shop and exit. त्यसमा चाहिँ नि के छ? Mic-ma.
Thanks very much. Actually, the equity proportion is up to 30%. 30% in infrastructure sector. And repatriation is up to 100%. Up to 100%. What? In foreign direct investment, which I have already expressed in my presentation also as well.
And about not just repatriating profits, but if you want to shut down your operation and leave, what are the complications in this country?
That should be, I think, that should be well expressed in the negotiation or the document which the government provide.
Okay, I think it's an important point, and we could discuss this further. But at least you have flagged it for now. And thank you, Mr. Sigdel. Eta pachari, uta. Mr. Moto, eta. Bye. Oh, bye, uta, yaar, no paro, yaar, uta.
I think that in Nepal, we have 100% equity.
Please introduce yourself.
My name is Jupendra Mahato. I am one of the investors also in Nepal. In Nepal, except telecommunication, there is up to 80% equity. In other infrastructures, 100% equity is allowed, and the repatriation is no problem. Either dividend or selling of the assets and equity.
What about exit, sir?
No problem.
No problem. Okay.
And %.
Thank you for coming into the conversation. Any other questions, sir? Especially, okay, in the back over there.
My name is Prakash Pon. I'm from Hong Kong. I'm representing Hong Kong Nepalese Business Association, and I'm a member of NRNA. I don't have a question, but I have a suggestion. To the government, I believe Mr. Secretary already provided the information which we have gone through. According to the information, which seems very practical and hardworking. But in fact, as Nepali, as a member of NRNA, what we can feel, what we are feeling is the government has to take serious initiation on the policy backing level, especially developed country. We've been living in a developed country like Hong Kong and the UK. How those countries are developed, we have a practical experience over there. Being a involvement of construction, infrastructure development in Hong Kong, and compared to Nepal's infrastructure development, the difference is government has doesn't have a proper planning, proper engineering process, procurement process, and then construction capability. The way country is suffering every year by landslide, flooding, and earthquake. it is very important to take an initiative by the government to rectify those things. For an example, I just want to give a suggestion that my experience. Because we didn't have a chance to be in a panelist at the moment, but I just want to give a suggestion to the government. If the government can take an initiative on that area, then especially planning.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, brother.
Prakashji, thank you. For the audience who's not from Nepal, the NRN is an organization of overseas Nepali who are very keen to support Nepal's own efforts towards growth, economic growth, and through investment in this particular instance. So thank you, Prakashji, for your suggestions, and the Minister Mahased himself is present, so I'm sure your points are well taken. There's I think probably the second last question over here. Etad bhai. Second row, third row.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lal Kesi, student of infrastructure sector. My few suggestion is, since we have so many participants, experts, and contractors, developers, builders, coming from different countries in Nepal, the best would have been PPP, BOT, and north-south corridors of roads, which can be considered as a transit corridor for China to India via Nepal. And those projects also would have been prepared beforehand, so that the discussions could be much more fruitful and result-oriented. Third one, and lastly, like we have fast track Kathmandu to Nizhgard, linking for international airport. That road is under construction, and that would have been much more better if it would have been done under PPM or PPP model. So anyway, the road has been under construction. How it is going to be utilized in the context of Nepal, and also a part of our modern infrastructures to uplift the economy. Is still grey. So I suggest government to look through how it is going to be utilized, whether it's a toll road or whether it is just a free service road, or how it is going to be utilized, and what is the impact for development of Nepal in that corridor. For that matter, setting up industries or race recreation or whatever is there. So I suggest that it should have been much more fruitful if the homework would have been done much earlier and the information would have been disseminated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very important point made by you, Mr. Kesi. Utta Pachadi, log the mic. Utta Pachadi, and that's the last question, right at the back. Mr. Kesi, the point you made, I think, is also a well-put criticism of our effort to go through the motions of an investment summit, but it is also important to have everything ready and proper. I think that is a criticism a suggestion that the Investment Board of Nepal will doubtless take from you. Thank you. Last question, please.
Yes, I am Komal Atre from Nepal Electricity Authority. My question regarding about the electric railway connectivity from the Tibet to Kathmandu. Because I am a project manager for the high voltage transmission line from Nepal Electricity side. because I have seen the estimates about I have surprised because I have done the transmission line estimate from my project, but I have seen the feasibility study of this railway connectivity, which is Kerunga and Kathmandu, that is Kathmandu connectivity. Does Nepali engineers also involved in the costing? Because its cost is very high, and how the BRI cost to Nepal will import such high cost? Because in my feasibility study, I have discussed with Chinese part, which State Grid, about the cross-border transmission line. It is not so high, but your costing is very, very high. It is a project cost or feasibility cost. I am surprising. I am asking to Chinese person and the Nepali person who has involved in this project.
The costing is given where? Where is the costing?
Which cost comes in for the feasibility cost and total project cost? But how Nepal government will, it will be profitable and it will thinks this cost comes in the scenario. Because this cost shows is a feasibility cost which proposed 2 weeks ago, like a project cost. Chinese portion, somehow Nepali engineers also involved in the costing portion.
Okay, anybody in the panel that would like to take this up? Because I am at a loss as to exactly whose responsibility it is to make the response. Mr. Wang? I think it's a specific point about the high project costs. Mantriji le isko bare mein ke tha sir? Bataun milcha? The minister, honorable minister will speak.
Thank you for your questions. Actually, up to now, we have not completed the DPR. Just
your willingness like to welcome investment here. So from the top leadership, from the governments, a lot of the senior officials, and also from Nepal's people here. These days I just feel. So I think this is a kind of momentum, very, very important momentum to encourage us to invest more here. Because I think the philosophy is that in a developing country, there will be huge kind of challenges. I'm Chinese, I know experiences the challenges. You know, 2000. As you said, Nepal now is taking off. Yeah, it's taking off. It's really taking off. You can see if Nepal's per capita GDP crossed 1,000 US dollar, then you cannot be dragged it back. It's going to be very quick. So a lot of opportunities there. But the key is that no matter how big challenges here, with the people here, they want development. They want this country can be developed faster. And with the hospitality, I can tell from the hospitality. So I think for the investor, for the private sector, no kind of challenge can crack us down. Yeah, with that. So this is my first feeling. The second one, you know, as MDB, the ADB, together with others like World Bank and other like now newly the AIB and also others development partners, we've been working here for a very long time. We invest a lot. As you mentioned, we just increased 2010 to 2014. The annual average is about 250 million, but now it's about ADB is about 600 million. So you know it's like a double. So it's going to be increased. But the key is that we invested on roads, we invested on the energy, and also invested on schools. So I just tried to take my notebook. The day before yesterday, I with the earthquake affected school called the Sanju Niwa in the Dulikhel, that one. Yeah, I do see a lot of kids there. They study there, so very younger generation. My idea is that you know, we invested on infrastructure, energy, school, and TWET, training a lot of people here. But what's the value there? So this is, I think, so we need the private investment. So we need you come to use those kind of routes. You use the energies we work together to generate. Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister yesterday mentioned, currently roughly is about 1 gigawatts here. And next year will be 2-3 years will be, in 3 years will be 3 gigawatts. In 10 years will be 10 gigawatts. So this is all the efforts we are here. I do hope all the energy generated can be utilized by ourselves domestically. So can be utilized by the private investment. So this is a foundation. This is the value, the meaning as the development partner. So we work here. So with that, I do hope. I believe this is an excellent opportunity, like all the colleagues here are talking about, excellent opportunity for for private sector to come in to invest here. Three quicker things. One, come early, or as early as possible. Second, aiming for the longer term. Yeah. The third, don't need to worry about too much challenges. During your investment, even challenges here, just get more talks with the government, more the federal and local governments, and work together to improve the ease in doing business here. Then will be paved for the way for the future, for the prosperity Nepal. Happy Nepali. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Chen. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, we're getting to the last end of the session. I wish we had more time to go back to these speakers, but you know, I've been reminded that I need to complete on time. So I'll just try and sum up a few thoughts. And you know, one of the things I think from a technical perspective that I would like to share is that from a currency perspective, also Nepal is pretty unique. We've been pegged to the INR. The peg is about 25 years old, very stable, and that allows us to benefit from the stability of the INR. So that's one big benefit for investors. For Indian investors, practically you can say there's little or no risk. And even for global investors, you can use the INR as a proxy, you can create synthetic hedges, you get proxy hedges. And the Nepalese Finance Ministry and the central bank is also working on a hedging framework. Very quickly to bring out from a hedging perspective. So that kind of currency stability which Nepal offers, I think, for the economy of its size is pretty unique compared to other peer groups that we have. The other thing from a technical perspective, these economies normally come under pressure because of inflation. You know, that's a typical challenge a lot of these LDCs you know, face. In the case of Nepal, because we have access to India's supply chain, right? So about 70%. 68% of our CPI basket can theoretically come from India, you know, which is food, textiles, etc., which, you know, obviously we will be linked to the India inflation cycle. Out of the balance 32%, almost 18 to 20% sits within the government space, which is electricity, oil, utilities and so forth. So we have a lot of resistance from inflation or hyperinflation of any kind. We've almost have a hard constraint on inflation, which is India +1. So if you think of the economy which has strong currency stability and strong inflation measures, you're protected from any sort of sudden or force majeure or economic meltdown, as may be said. Nepal also is very strong on macroeconomic fundamentals. Typically in the World Economic Forum, when they do the reports for global measures, on the macro vector, Nepal is 32 out of 144, right? So we are healthier than most economies in South Asia on a macro level. So from a macro overall sustainable basis, you are technically protected from the currency. You've got technical protection against inflation, and we've got very strong macro fundamentals. And again, we've got 40, 50, 60 years of track record to show that we've been very stable as economy, never had any challenges. So the big 3 or 4 or 5 themes that I'd like to kind of summarize from what the speakers have shared. First of all, we've had a great track record, right? 30 years of great investments. We've heard some mind-boggling numbers. 1,500% dividends, $800,000 being transformed to $1.5 billion in 8-9 years. I mean, these are kind of numbers which are hard to believe, but they're backed by real data. And these are not exceptions. It's not that we've picked 1 or 2 investments from 20 or 30. These numbers can be applied to any investment. You pick any of the top 20, 30 investments, that's the number that's being shared. So clearly the track record speaks for itself, data speaks for itself. There is no doubt about the performance that Nepal has had. We heard straight from SCB, Unilever, some of the people on the dais, any myths about the environment are all myths, right? We've dispelled all those myths. It's a great environment, very, very easy, agile government, absolutely friendly, regulatory friendly, no challenges, no repatriation issues. So any confusion there is, I hope we can dispel, because these are investors who've been here 27 years, 33 years, absolutely no problem, right? So the track record, and from an environment perspective, we don't have any challenges. The strong consumption curve, right? So we talked about the demographics of the country. A large population, very young population, median age of 22. We've got great university graduates coming out, good human capital, so the access to human capital is very good. Niruk talked about the digitalization and how he sees digital as the next frontier that Nepal is accessing. And with digitalization, what access is going to improve dramatically, right? So those are some of the kind of main themes that's coming up from the demographic landscape. On the hydro space, Mr. Sharma shared that just by harnessing the hydro potential of Nepal, right, in the next 10, 15 years, just simple arithmetic is we'll grow our per capita 3 to 4 times. 3 to 4 times in 10 years, right? Now that's like 15, 17% per year growth just based on hydro. Now if you add tourism, you add agriculture, you add any of these sectors where Nepal has tremendous potential, I think the big challenge Nepal is going to have is the economy is just going to burn, it's going to overheat. Right, so this is the time to enter. The economy is fundamentally sound. We've heard directly from the Honorable Prime Minister, we've heard from the great leaders of our country really where we are headed. So from a leadership perspective, from an opportunity perspective, the growth is going to be very, very, very fast. I think one of the other themes that's coming across now is that, look, historically we've had great success, great numbers, but probably the FDI has not been to the tune of what we'd like. This investment summit is coming after about a year where we had a stable government, all the fundamental factors are in place. The opportunity really is now, right? Some of these, when we look at these economies globally, whether it's Venezuela or Taiwan or all of these places, Vietnam, the time to get in was the right time. And, for Nepal, the time is now. Don't wait, don't look around. The speakers are here, experience is here, data is here, the government is open. We've got the investment board looking to interface directly with you. I think the time is to come in now, not wait anymore. Fasten your seat belts, get on board, because in 3 or 5 years, once people have come in, it's going to get harder, right? It'll get more competitive. So the time is to come in now. I think any challenges or any confusions, any discussions you have, there are people around here to answer. We've got the private sector here. One of the great learnings which you may want to take away is the experience shows that when you have a local partner, you're able to move much faster, you're able to have a much faster success. Just to share from a domestic investor standpoint, and I think Hariji referred to that, we are putting our money where our mouth is, right? So cement, we're investing more than $1 billion, $1.5 billion invested in cement in the last 3-4 years. Tourism, hotels is another $1.5 billion. Hydro is another $1.5 billion. So just in these 3 sectors, domestic investors currently, as we speak, have $5 billion of capital expenditure going on. $5 billion is not a small number by any sense. That is domestic investors putting all our money in these sectors. So our confidence is high, and we'd like to encourage you guys to come on board. Join the sort of movement that we have in Nepal, benefit from our kind of economic landscape, from our economic trajectory. And I think there's no better time than now, no better opportunity than now. That's the message I'd like to pass on here. So in conclusion, I'd like to thank our speakers. I'd like to first of all thank Mr. Chen, who's our keynote speaker. His positive vibe from ADB, what ADB is sharing and so forth. Mr. Rana, who talked about FNCCI, how FNCCI has been working to lobby with the government. They're talking to B2B with their various chambers, they are bringing investors, they are interfacing everybody. Ashish shared a story of Unilever and very encouraging about how they are investing more, and they see Unilever being a long-term player in Nepal's economic growth. Dr. Moto, obviously as usual, firebrand, he talked about, let's talk about the success, let's not be afraid of competition. Let's not hide all those big balance sheet profit numbers and only talk about problems. Let's really talk about the successes, because that's data, that's reality, right? Nirukt, we got him on record saying, look, this is a great environment, absolutely corruption free, fantastic regulators. So, we're going to hold him to that, and very encouraging to hear that he's brought in a number of investors, or StanChart's brought a number of investors here, and hopefully StanChart, being an ambassador of Nepal, will bring in that FDI investment. Mr. Nandlal Sharma talked about hydro and 11,000 crores, and I think that's INR currency. That's $2 billion in one single project, right? So that's showing the kind of commitment and the belief that these companies have in Nepal. Hariji